Great. So that means our faces are going to be across the country.
They will, indeed.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dear. There goes our reputation.
I think I just peed.
My goodness.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
All right, and welcome to yet another episode of AT Banter. I am Rob Minot, and with me, as per usual, Ryan Fleury.
Hi there.
And Steve Barkley.
Howdy doody.
And we have a special guest in the studio today.
Superstar. A broadcast superstar.
I know,
a legend in broadcasting.
He's
He
going to
even
put us
has
to shame.
an entourage.
That's right.
He brought a camera crew and everything. We have Grant Hardy from
Accessible Media Incorporated. Is it incorporated?
Yeah, Accessible Media Incorporated.
There we go.
Well,
AMI.
AMI. Thanks for coming in all the way into lovely downtown Burnaby.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is awesome. This is the first time that we've been filmed.
That's true. Well, other than for, police records.
Yeah.
Well,
those damn SkyTrain cameras.
That's right, Rob. Keep your clothes on.
Hey.
Well, you wouldn't
tell me.
believe, how much effort I put into my clothes, my hair for this
tell me
podcast
about it.
before realizing, right, it's an audio program.
I was a little disappointed that you didn't bring up hair and makeup people. You just brought a camera guy. I mean, what's going on?
I know, right?
Yeah. Now the entire world will be able to see that we all have faces made for radio.
Pretty much. There's a reason why our camera is sitting over there in the corner with cobwebs on it.
That is true.
Well, for those people who don't know, Grant is a broadcast journalist with AMI and has come in today to talk to us and give us a little bit of insight on how he got started and what life is like as a roving reporter.
Well, broadcasting and journalism is something that I was always really passionate about. As a kid, I loved to record up in my own bedroom on the cassette player, be my own little DJ. And when I was about 11, I took a voiceover course and I did a fundraising exercise to raise the money. And I produced a little demo tape of me making stupid voices. And at that point, AMI, which was around, but it was branded differently. It was branded as VoicePrint, and it was a reading service back then. They did an interview with me about my experience and, about my life and what it was like going through that process. So AMI was aware of me when they were granted the TV license and began broadcasting out of Vancouver. At that point, I was in university studying for Bachelor of Arts, but I was also working with the Neil Squire Society because I was hoping to work while in school. So I kind of had two fronts that I guess helped me be known by AMI, and they invited me to start as a casual reporter. So in those days, I would go in for maybe 1 or 2 shifts a month, and we do a lot of cool stories. My first story was the Vancouver Folk Music Festival. I was so nervous that I called it the Music Folk Festival at the time, and that unfortunately made it to air.
Excellent.
But there were some really cool things that I was able to do. We reviewed an HD radio. And one of the things that I'd really kind of sold was, look, I'm really passionate about accessible technology. And it just so happened that we were able to review that product. And that really opened the door to reviewing a ton of other products. Some of them my own, like the Braille Note, the iPhone, a lot of products from Aroga. So I think I really built up that I don't want to say reputation, but I built up that experience as a tech reporter. And when the full-time position opened up in the spring of last year, I applied and sort of summarized all that I'd done over the last few years, and my team was incredibly supportive as well, and I was able to get in. So my title now is broadcast presenter. I'm working with a really cool team in Vancouver as well as the head office in Toronto. And we put out about 2 stories a week on our flagship magazine show called AMI This Week, which are really a variety of stuff. Everything from profiles of inspiring people to tech to cool events around the community.
How old of a guy are you?
I'm 26.
Wow, 26. And so you started this really early.
I was 20. Well, I think that the chance was out there. I really kind of tried to contribute as much as I could. Again, the team, Amit, who's our producer now, he used to be our videographer, and the producer we had at the time, John, and Sylvie, who's our assignment editor. All of those people were really, really supportive of me, and I think had a lot of faith in me. So I really have a lot of thanks to give for being blessed to work with that team.
You said you have a Bachelor of Arts. Is that right?
I do. I have a Bachelor of Arts, and most of my broadcast training has been on the job. There is the opportunity for me to receive training, and I've taken a theater improv class last year. But we do have some training summits at our head office that I've attended. And yeah, a lot of it has just been building up that experience as we do story after story.
Well, you have a really good voice for broadcast. I mean, I'm sure that helps, but I mean, it's certainly better than mine or any of ours.
No,
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well,
I think you guys are sounding great. Your podcast is super cool. I think the guests that you've had on, that you've lined up are really impressive. I love the kind of, one thing that I have to work on is I can be too sort of announcer-ish, which you'd think is great, but people, I think, prefer to hear when you're a little more genuine and, a little less formal. So I think I've got lots of tips that I could pick up from you folks.
Oh, I don't know about that. Like I said, we are heavily edited.
We are, but
I am too. Don't worry.
But funnily enough, there are times when I'm sitting editing the show and I'll be like, well, you know what, this is a little raw and it sounds natural, and I'll just leave it in because of that. Because the identity that we wanted to sort of put forth as a podcast was something a little bit more natural and a little bit more. Yeah, more loose.
Something mid-40s guys sitting around a table-ish.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, that
captured that perfectly.
We did.
That means a lot to people, that ability to just be natural and have fun.
Right. So. But I mean, 26, so you've got lots of time, though. I mean, if you decide that you do want more training, or you want to do, have you ever thought about doing voiceover work or anything like that?
You never know what the future holds. I'm really, really happy where I'm working. I do some, lots of voiceover in the studio for our stories. I'm not sure if I would do voiceover work, me making silly voices and stuff like that. Right. I think that was kind of a cool way to get into it as a kid. But I find that I prefer talking just using my normal voice.
Right.
It's funny. It's kind of embarrassing to listen back to that demo tape now and hear me trying to be a witch and, whatever. So,
wait, how old were you when you did the demo tape?
I think I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah, 11 or 12.
And you brought it in with you, right? So we can sample it?
That's right. Wow, that's impressive, though.
I forgot.
At 12, I was still learning that it was a really bad idea to take a margarine container filled with gasoline into the forest and light it on fire.
Nice.
So, you're doing demo tapes at 12. So that's impressive.
I actually have a friend who has done quite well with his voiceover work. He's the voice for one of My Little Ponies.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
Neat.
And he's one of the few male ponies, I guess. He's the brony.
Okay.
So he actually gets shuttled around from place to place to go to My Little Pony conventions.
Nice.
There's a whole My Little Pony subculture out there.
Oh, I know. I saw the Netflix documentary that they.
Oh, did you?
That they did on bronies.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh?
I bet he has a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Did it feel like a very organic process, sort of breaking into the field? I mean, it sounds like you're all self-taught. They sort of, slowly brought you on. Did it feel really natural? Was there ever any scary moments where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this?
I don't think I ever thought, why am I doing this? But there were definitely times, my first few interviews, or especially when I had to talk about myself in the beginning, that were, I felt a little shy. I would say it felt very organic. It's one of those things where you kind of wonder, are people going to take me seriously? I've written this review of this tech product. Have I covered all the important points? Is it easy to understand? Is it easy to follow? And certainly my first couple interviews, there's a level of, oh man, what am I doing? But I'm really lucky to be working for a company that provides training and support. I have a whole team behind me. So if stuff gets, missed, they're always happy to jump in and help out. But I think certainly if I look back at the Grant that I was in 2010, I've done a lot of growing and hopefully improve. But yeah, absolutely. It was a very organic process.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think that, all of us here can relate too, because, when we first started the podcast, crowded around a little table in my office, trying to do this, we were all, terrified and had no idea what we're doing. And, just over time and experience, you just develop a skill set, and you just become a little bit more comfortable with it, and it just starts to come natural and very organic, right?
Wait, was I supposed to develop a skill set through this?
Well, I'm assuming so. You don't throw up now before every podcast.
Oh, there's that. Okay. I don't know that's a skill set.
Not throwing up.
Maybe I'll get to that point one day. Just kidding.
Typically, what kind of segments do you do?
Well, our show is called AMI This Week, and there's actually now a weekend edition as well, ATW Weekend Edition. We call it a magazine show, and what that means is it's really general interest. So we do a huge variety of content, everything from tech. So, for example, recently we've done reviews on the iPhone 7 and an entry-level Amazon Kindle. We do profiles of inspiring people around the community, often, people with disabilities. For example, a profile on Jessica Kruger, who is a wheelchair rugby player. Sometimes the stories are just cool. Like, for example, we did a story about a recent change in the bylaws in Vancouver, which allows people to keep chickens in their backyard. So we visited a family that had chickens in their backyard and just chatted with them about what it's like keeping chickens. So I think I would describe it as a regional look at cool stuff happening around the community, often from a disability-related angle. That's anything that's cool, there's a chance you can hear it on our show.
And who comes up with the segment ideas? Who?
Well, we're all allowed to pitch ideas, and there's certainly ideas that I've pitched before. We have a woman in our office named Sylvie, who's her role, she's called the assignment editor. And her job is to really mine for those stories, whether that's going through newspapers and online articles, right. Reaching out to a vast array of contacts that she has, or even attending different events around the community, like the Ability Arts Expo or the Vision Teachers Conference. She is pretty on top of things. She has built, great relationships between AMI and other organizations in the community. So again, a lot of the ideas come from her, but Amit pitched the idea about the backyard chickens. I've pitched some tech reviews. So again, anyone can pitch ideas.
So it's a team effort, really.
Yeah, it's a team effort. That's the long-winded way of saying that it's a team effort.
And it's funny, the more you describe it, the more I sort of think about our little podcast, and there's a lot of similarities too. That's generally what we do too. I sift through news articles and sift through the Twitter feeds and the Facebook feeds and stuff, looking for things that are going on and interesting tech that's coming up. And we kind of do the same thing. I send it to Ryan. Ryan reaches out, gets us guests, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I think there's real value to people for hearing about that, stuff that's happening in the community, that sometimes it just takes, a face on screen or hearing a voice, an interview, to kind of bring that a little closer to people, give them an idea of what's happening in their community. So I think that's really valuable.
This is going to be one question, but I think you might have already answered this one with the chicken thing. But what's the craziest segment that you've done?
Craziest segment that we've done. I had a really cool experience going to CES, formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show, in Las Vegas earlier in January. And we produced a full special about that show, as well as a little segment for our magazine show. And that was pretty amazing. The technology that they had on the floor was incredible. It was cool to take a look at some of the upcoming tech trends. We did an interview with Stevie Wonder. That was just wild for me. I really enjoyed it. But we've never done a segment that I haven't liked. I love, neat, wacky segments like Backyard Chickens. The profiles are just awesome. Like, some of the people around the community are really inspiring, and I just feel really blessed to even have the chance to get to know them. I think that, all of the segments that we do become very close to you personally. I'm sure you probably find that with the podcast as well.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have to talk off mic later and see if we can get the contact info for the backyard chicken people, because that might be, I think, a good show for January.
We could just interview Grove and Diane. They have chickens in their backyard.
What? Do they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Chicken house.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. Just what, for eggs?
Yeah.
Like, do they slaughter them at some point?
For eggs.
Yeah.
Just for fresh eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe you can't actually slaughter the chickens in your backyard, which is probably a good thing.
I guess so. Or maybe you just need a license to do that. I don't know.
But eggs, and kids love them. Companionship. They're kind of cool animals, chickens.
Sure.
I might go for a...
I don't know. I prefer them deep fried.
Uh-huh.
Well, I might go for a dog instead, but
Deep fried dog?
Yeah, I wouldn't deep fry a
No.
dog.
No. As a pet.
This just here, Grant Hardy eats dogs.
There you go. I'm representative for,
PETA will be calling.
Yes.
AT Banter, breaking stories.
Deep fried dog in a pita. There you go.
Oh, jeez. You're turning it into a recipe now.
Nice.
What's your favorite segment that you've done? Like, what's been the most fun?
The most fun.
There's only one right answer, Grant.
Really?
It's our show.
I wasn't even going there, but yeah, that's right. Just say this show, and then we'll just...
In terms of the most fun segment we've done, that's a super hard question to answer. Probably, when I look back, it might be a tech segment. One of the first reviews that I ever did on an iPhone. One of the first tech conferences I ever attended. Just because it was one of those things where it's like your first experience where you realize, like, wow, I'm really doing this. It took me a while to prepare this review, and, I sent it in kind of wondering if it was going to be good or not. And it turns out that they helped me edit it down and we aired it. So yeah, probably a tech segment, but yeah, that's a really hard question. Our profile with Jessica Kruger is pretty awesome. She's a really inspiring person, wheelchair rugby player that got a lot of views as well on our social media platforms. We have a profile coming up on Sean Heslop, who is in year 1 of a doctoral program in counseling psychology. He's also like a really amazing guy, very down to earth. His mission is to make counseling services more readily available to people with disabilities. And he was also really out there with sharing his personal story of kind of struggling to accept his vision loss as he was, entering the blind community. So yeah, a lot of those profiles really hit close to your heart.
Right.
But it's hard to pick one segment.
What has been the coolest tech toy you've reviewed?
I would say that the coolest tech toys I've reviewed have been the iPhone, and I've also really enjoyed reviewing the Braille Notes. We reviewed the Braille Note M-Power back in 2011, I believe, and then we just recently reviewed the Braille Note Touch. I know that I probably am not going to be owning one anytime soon, because you guys asked for it back. No, just kidding. But it was a pretty sweet gadget.
So, you dragon boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to dragon boat.
Did you?
Yeah. Used to dragon boat on a team for Sunny Hill Hospital.
Oh, right on.
It was called Either Or.
Okay.
And are you on the which team are you on?
I am on Vision Impossible, which is, as you know, there are really a handful of teams for to accommodate blind and vision impaired paddlers. But Vision Impossible is cool because it's just very recreational. So part of it, in fact, a big part of it is that social aspect. So we actually did a piece about my Dragon Boat team this year, aired in the fall. And when I joined the team in 2015, it was a really challenging time in my life. I just lost a guide dog. I wasn't working full time. I was kind of struggling with, mobility, like just getting myself out there. And the team was great. We clicked right away. It gave me a great social outlet to go to every weekend. And yeah, 2 seasons later, we're in our, it's the end of the season now because it only goes on in the summer. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year.
Excellent.
So for those people who, I don't know, might be out of the area and might not know what the heck dragon boating is.
Good point.
What is dragon boating? Because I know it's a bunch of insane people get in these kayaks.
Chinese war canoes
on Saturday mornings and paddle around. And is there a big race at the end of the season? Is that how it works?
Yep. There's a dragon boat festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We usually do the Dragon Boat Festival in Steveston in August, and there's a smaller festival in False Creek that we do in June. And a dragon boat, it's kind of like a long kayak. It's a long, narrow boat with 2 paddlers on each row sitting side to side. And you each paddle on one side. And it kind of looks like a decorative, dragon, the boat. But the idea is to paddle together in a synchronized way. So you're all in time. Yeah, it's something you can really get into. It's a cool water sport, and then it's both recreational and competitive at the same time.
And how many people are on a team?
Is it 22 for a full boat?
Yeah, max would be about 22. We kind of hovered under that number for our team. But, there's a good chance that, 18 or 20 paddlers would show up for practice.
And how long does the season run? Like, when does it start? Like, obviously not in the winter, I'm assuming.
I think it could go in the winter, hey Steve, but we go. Yeah, we go.
And that totally sucks when you're out on False Creek in the pouring rain and it's cold. That's nasty.
That's Saturday morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, forget that.
But there's people who do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and we go from April to August, and definitely by the end of the August, you can tell it's starting to get a little colder, a little rainy, and you're like, okay, maybe this is a summer sport.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
What kind of other stuff does AMI do?
Well, at a very high level, it is a multimedia organization. It's a nonprofit media company. The goal is to make accessible media for all Canadians. And, it concentrates on the growing number of Canadians who are blind or print restricted in some other way. So AMI TV is a national TV channel that's mandated by the CRTC. So every digital cable subscriber has to get it. And it has a good mix of, mainstream shows like Murdoch Mysteries and Law and Order, Property Virgins, Corner Gas, movies, kind of a huge mix of programming, which we add that second described video track. You had is Diane from Descriptive Video Works.
We had her on the show. Yeah, we had her on the show a few weeks ago.
Yeah, she was talking about that. So we aired those kinds of shows along with our own original content, like our magazine shows,
right.
More serious shows like Canada in Perspective and Challenges and Change that really get into, exploring employment and other social issues in a more serious way. And those programs have description built in. So we actually don't need that second voice because we just make sure that when we write our scripts or when people are speaking, that all the visuals are actually covered. So it's built right in. And there's AMI Audio too, which used to be a reading service. They would read newspapers, magazine articles. Less of that content now that we have the internet and people can access that stuff online. But they do still read, the Guardian Weekly, stuff like that.
Right.
But they have their own original programs as well, such as Live from Studio 5, which is a daily morning show that covers everything from like health to technology, news, politics, that kind of thing, as well as other original shows as well. And the other thing I want to mention is just AMI's advocacy of accessibility even outside their original content. So, for example, AMI actually publishes a DV guide. So it gives you a list of all the programs on Canadian TV that are described, even if they're on other channels.
Oh, cool.
So you can access that on the AMI website. You can also access AMI's original programming on the website as well, like our magazine show.
Yeah, it was interesting talking to Diane from Descriptive Video Works because she really was pretty optimistic in terms of where things are going in terms of descriptive audio because, or descriptive video rather. She figures, what was that number that she told us, right? Didn't she say that in five years she figures
5 years most of the stuff would be described. I think she said everything prime time.
Yep.
next year
has to be described.
That's right. Fast.
Yeah.
And is that mandated by the CRTC?
That's mandated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny, because one barrier to accessing described video content on other channels is just turning on the descriptive mode on the cable box. I remember being at university, and I had this brilliant idea that, I'm just going to get someone to turn it on for me and leave it on. But what I didn't realize is that sometimes that track, at least back in those days, would either be silent or used for
another program,
another language. So that's, I think, one advantage to having, 24-hour-a-day channel with open described video and captioning. But yeah, totally. I think it's great that content, described content and accessibility is growing.
Well, and I think too, a lot of education needs to take place for the cable providers and satellite providers. Like Shaw, for instance, has a one-button remote that you can use to turn on that SAP channel, but you call Shaw, they don't know what you're talking about. Right? So education needs to be part of that solution as well.
Right, absolutely.
Well, and probably as they mandate it and as it becomes more common, I mean, you'll find that I'm sure that problem sort of falls away, and people will just know what.
Hopefully.
Totally.
Although, maybe I'm putting too much faith in Shaw employees, right?
Well, it's not just Shaw, it's all of them, right?
Well, it would be great to see cable boxes just more accessible.
Absolutely.
General. Hopefully that's on the radar as well.
Yeah, I would hope.
The other big revelation we found out, though, from her, RedTube. Or is it Pornhub? Pornhub. I'm sorry.
What's RedTube?
Nothing. I don't know.
Wow. We know you've been doing it.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
RedTube.
Edit.
God damn it.
Well, after this, we're all going to go check out RedTube. Find out what it is, what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, let's get back to Grant eating dogs.
Yeah, I'm going to Google RedTube, but maybe not on the office Wi-Fi.
But yeah, no, it's true. Pornhub is descriptive video.
Descriptive porn.
Crazy.
Which she actually critiqued. She said it's terrible. It's not well described at all.
Yeah.
So, well, it's and I think they're working on that, right?
Yeah. They are actively. There's somebody in a room somewhere actively working on that.
I think Diane said the original description was done poorly until they got involved.
That's right.
Because they're the ones doing it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
what a crazy world we live in.
You've got to think there's such an emphasis on.
Part of me wants to just go there and listen to it, just
close
to
your eyes
hear what they're doing. Because to me, describe porn would probably be really uninteresting.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
it's like listening to an audiobook.
And then I'm not sure what I'm looking at. What the hell is that? What has he got on the lens? Like, what is going on?
Another show.
But we digress. Anyways.
I understand AMI is also working to do described video for the CBC as well now.
AMI has described live programming in the past, for example, with the generous partnership of the CBC for, let's say, the royal wedding. And it is simulcasted, with 30-second delay or so on AMI as well as CBC. And in real time, live, the describers are writing the script and feeding it to the talent, the voiceover, the person doing the voiceover, so that they can describe the event as it's going out live on AMI TV. So that's pretty cool. AMI also describes, for example, has described live Toronto Blue Jays games. So yeah, that live description more prevalent now, and it's definitely quite an art. But I think it's pretty cool for the brave people that are willing to write those scripts and voice them.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of pressure having to write your script in under 30 seconds and feed it off to somebody. That's fast.
Again, Diane from Descriptive Video Works talked a little bit about that, because they do the same thing, and it's a real specific skill set to be able to improv plus write. It's and there is a lot of improv training that apparently that they do.
I'm sure there is. Well, and
for that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where it's not like a play or something where maybe you've seen it a few times. It's literally a live event that you're totally on the spot, thinking on your feet and trying to figure out how to describe the important detail to a vision impaired audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. And now, is AMI is the head office here, or where are they based?
The head office is in Toronto. We have bureaus, kind of satellite offices in Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa, and Halifax. And they're small offices. They're 4 people in our office, whereas the Toronto office is quite huge. But I know one thing that's really important is that regional programming from Vancouver or Victoria, Kelowna, Saskatchewan, Halifax, all across Canada, which is really why, they have those bureaus that are a little closer to those places so that we can get in there and send some awesome stories back to Toronto.
So you guys share all the content that you guys produce? Like, so do you air the Vancouver segments over, in Edmonton and vice versa?
Yeah. The channel is actually, there's a West Coast feed and an East Coast feed that's just different in terms of the time. But it's the same channel across the country. So, pretty much everything is handled in Toronto in terms of, for example, we will send a story that we've done into Toronto, and there'll be some QC, quality control, from the senior producer in Toronto, and then it's slated for the show. So, AMI this week has stories from across the country in a single episode.
I see.
Yeah.
So being that this show is called AT Banter, Grant, what types of assistive technology do you use to be able to do your job?
My Braille Note Apex, which I've had for years, ever since I've been in school, I have grown to really depend on it. I know it's not the most modern technology in the world, but it's great to just be able to open it up and start reading in Braille and taking notes. So I use that. It also pairs with my iPhone, which I, again, love, kind of use from the morning when I get up to sprint to the bus stop, to on the bus to do music or look at work email, do work, kind of all throughout the day. At work, I've got a PC with JAWS, and I can hook my Braille display up to that as well. Computer at home. I actually use a Mac. So, I think that's the technology that I rely on mostly. Do you have thoughts or suggestions on some cool things that I could work into my repertoire?
No, and we're asking the question.
Okay.
Trying to turn it around on us, are you? Nice try.
So tell us, what kind of dogs taste the best, Grant?
Well,
I imagine Chihuahua fingers would...
Chihuahua fingers. You're pretty bony. Not a lot of meat.
Schnauzer on a bun.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I get the sense you're an Apple guy. You seem to like the iPhone.
I do.
Okay, you're sitting at a table with a bunch of Android guys.
We're going to beat you up after this now.
Let's talk about that. What is it about iOS or Apple products in particular that you really sort of key into?
At the end of the day, the iPhone and iOS is the platform that I've used for years, so I'm obviously the most comfortable with it. I find it pretty intuitive, to be honest. I use a lot of the services like iMessage and Apple Music, so I'm kind of totally ingrained, within the ecosystem. But I've gotten quite a collection of apps as well that I really love using. So Move It for real-time transit directions, Looktel Recognizer and Money Reader, the Blind Square and Nearby Explorer GPS apps. I have an app called Lire, Lire, where I read my news feeds. So I guess it probably comes down to comfort, ease of use, and, Braille support seems to be pretty good. No complaints on that front. So, I'm open to exploring other platforms for sure, but I probably won't jump ship at this point.
Well, you may have a point. I mean, recently with Apple's new accessibility website, I have to say, and the videos that they've been producing are pretty impressive. Actually, we'll probably talk about that on one of the future shows for sure, because I get the sense that they're really starting to take accessibility seriously.
I think so. Yeah.
Not that they've
been for quite a while.
Yeah, they've always been at the forefront, absolutely. But I think that they really seem to be pushing it these days.
And I really love how and I know this is kind of growing with other platforms too, but, I love how you can just pull the stuff out, even a, computer, if you need to, erase the hard drive or whatever, set it up, and everything just kind of talks from start to finish. So, yeah, I find it all very elegant and works really well together. But I have no doubt other platforms are great too.
Well, I mean, I'll fully admit that the only thing that drove me away from Apple was iTunes.
Right? Yeah.
Bleep that out.
Yeah, bleep out that. That's a dirty word around
iTunes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know, right? Like, it's just that was really the only reason. I mean, the phone itself, and even iOS itself was fine. It was just the pain of dealing with
having to sync using iTunes.
With iTunes, that software. It needed a complete rebuilding so many years ago, and they just never seemed to do it.
Well, and I've always heard too, though, that it works better on a Mac. It just was never designed for Windows.
Well, maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I've certainly had to adapt around iTunes. Like, I used to have a certain folder structure that I stored my music in. I actually used the modified date so that I could just sort the folder and hear the newest songs first. So I've really had to adapt to iTunes. But it is totally doable for me now on the Mac, but I certainly understand that in Windows it's gotten, a lot worse in terms of accessibility. I don't want to, I haven't tried it in the last couple versions, but that is unfortunate to hear.
Well, and who knows? Maybe eventually they'll get their act together, and I certainly would take another look at going back to an iPhone if they revamped iTunes. If they said, "Hey, we rebuilt iTunes. It's no longer a nightmare. You can just drag and drop stuff, no problem." I would take another look at it, but.
See, and I really like Android because you got so many more choices for screen size and button layouts, and it's a little bit more fragmented, but you got a lot more choice, and you don't really pay that Apple premium.
Totally.
Well, okay, we should talk a little bit about this. Now, you guys, Steve and Grant, you guys kind of go back a ways, don't you?
Little ways, yeah.
Little ways.
Yeah.
So can you tell the audience about that?
Well, I guess our first meeting was I don't even know how old you were back then, but I delivered his first computer system to him way back when. I think it was it Windows based or was it DOS based back then?
I think it was Windows 95. I was
was
about
it? Okay.
95.
I was about 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And it had a telesensory. Wasn't a power braille. Was it a navigator? Navigator braille display? I think it was a navigator. And initially I trained your brother, Graham, how to use it. And in about a week or so, he was calling me with questions I couldn't answer because he had already learned more than I knew about it. And he had also remapped all of the keys on the front of the braille display just to screw with you.
Oh, yeah, that's some brotherly love.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was I was pretty young. So in the beginning, I didn't have a huge desire really to focus necessarily, but you did do some training with me in the beginning, and it did quickly dawn on me that it was a pretty incredible system, and it was really kind of how my love of technology began.
And see, that's funny because you're kind of one of this new generation of people who grew up with
accessible
that level,
tech,
with that level of accessible technology, right?
Yeah. Prior to that, it was there were adaptive aids, but they were nowhere near as prevalent and nowhere near as sophisticated as what we have now. I think about your brother who's working as a lawyer now, and some of the lawyers that I knew back then, and in order to put themselves through law school, they actually read all of their stuff using an Opticon, which is for those who don't know, it's a handheld camera. It was developed by, I think, VTech or Telesensory, one or the other. But it's a handheld camera that you run over a line of text, and you've got an array of pins that you rest your finger on. And it doesn't convert to Braille. It just, the pins form the shape of the letters that you're passing the camera over.
Oh, geez.
So you actually feel each individual letter, and you have to be very accurate in tracking across the line of it. You actually had to go for training down in California to learn how to use it.
Wow.
And, well, at least in the early days you did. And people actually put themselves through law school, and that's a lot of reading. I find that just amazing.
That's somebody who wants to be a lawyer really bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Determined. Darn determined. So.
Yeah. I was pretty spoiled growing up with all that cool technology. And the cool thing was every year, because it was still kind of in development, right? Every year there'd be a big update to JAWS or Windows with, well, maybe not Windows every year, but, 1 year, now you can access the internet with JAWS. The next year, contracted Braille on the computer. So every update, there was something really new and huge that always kept me excited.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of have a tendency to take it for granted now, but it was a long haul getting to where we are now. So. Yeah, pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, we also crossed trails later on down the road at the CNIB Bowen Island camps. You were one of my campers, my happy campers.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve always worked really hard at coordinating the technology and volunteering at Teen Tech Camp. So, yeah, definitely very memorable.
Wait. There were actually... The Bowen Island camp? I thought that was just an excuse Steve used to just go out and he would just take a week off, and I thought that was code for something. I didn't actually realize that they actually happened.
That was a genuine thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for 9 years, I think.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a shame that they don't do them anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they do have a camp. It's not a technology camp anymore, though. The CNIB sold the Bowen Island property.
Right.
And they moved the camps out to a place called Sajak Ranch out by Mission.
Okay.
Which is a really cool, totally accessible camp. And they've got horses, they've got goats and chickens, and they're right on, I think it's the Pitt River, if I recall. I'm not 100% sure on that. But they've got a nice little area where you can canoe. They've got a swimming pool, and it's all set up so it's completely wheelchair accessible as well.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, it's a really neat camp.
And do they run that around the same time?
Yep.
They run it every year?
Yeah, they run it in the summer. But yeah, there's no longer any sort of technology component to that camp anymore. So
it's just a pure camp.
Yep, it's just a camp.
I see. Where can people find AMI on their old TV tuner?
Well, here on the West Coast, it is 888 on Shaw or Telus. Again, 888. AMI Audio 889. If you go to the website at ami.ca, you will be able to find the correct channel number in your part of the country. And you'll also be able to watch AMI This Week and our other programming online. So that's important to remember. You don't have to just, PVR it. You can watch it online. Twitter is at Accessible Media, and Facebook is facebook.com/Accessible Media Inc. And we post lots of cool stuff as well. So yeah, check it out.
And what time does AMI This Week air?
On the so again, we have an East and a West Coast TV channel, and on those channels, AMI This Week airs on 7:30 on Monday nights. The weekend show actually first airs at 11 p.m. on Friday night. If you're up late night. But they repeat multiple times throughout the weekend and throughout the week. So depending on, where you are, the times might be slightly different, but on the website, ami.ca, there's a schedule that you can check out.
You are so much better at telling your website and Facebook feed and everything than we are.
Oh, no. And it's almost that time to
it's
do
almost
that.
that time.
Oh, no. All right. Well, before we try to butcher that, we should really thank Grant for coming in.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been great having you, and it's been fun participating in your process as well with the cameras rolling.
It is. So. We have to thank your entourage. Thanks for coming in. And
thank you, entourage. Yeah. I understand you got some pretty cool content for next week as well.
Oh,
we do?
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, we're crapping our pants over talking to Rick Hansen.
Well, it's not Stevie Wonder yet, but...
No, but still, Rick Hansen. Yeah.
The man in motion
it was,
himself.
to be honest, it was one of those things where just like, just reach out to him. You're just going to say not get an answer or just say no. And
I've got his home phone number now.
He got back to us and said sure. So that's the amazing thing that we've learned about having some mics and a mixing board is that if you ask people if they want to come on a podcast, generally they'll say yes.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
No matter who they are. So.
That's super exciting.
Nifty neato.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's, he's no Oscar the Blind Cat, but...
Oh, I don't know.
Listen, Oscar's cool.
Oscar's going into space.
Oscar is going in... Anyways, okay, we digress again. Okay, Ryan, where can people find us?
People can find us online at atbanter.com. I just about blew that.
Okay, let's try that again. It's blowing the website. That doesn't bode well for the email address.
Wow.
No, it really doesn't.
People can also email us at...
Steve.
atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Awesome.
And people can find us on Twitter at @AT_banter. They can find us on Facebook. They can find us on YouTube. They can find us on Google Plus for the moment.
Or just on the good old internet.
That's right. Just type AT Banter and you will be inundated with wonderful links.
Banter stuff.
Banter. Otherwise, of course, all the AMI info we will put in the show notes. Make sure that you tune in, see our ugly faces at some point.
Yep. Check it out.
And that will certainly do us. Thanks again, Grant, for coming in. And we'll see everybody next week.
Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by Aroga Technologies. Visit Aroga Technologies online at www.aroga.com. That's AROGA.com. Music provided by bensound.com.